I define Liga MX as the shoot your shot league.
You do expect higher performances and better things from Club Americas, but it's the inconsistencies.
Isn't this inconsistent though?
I will maintain that the U.S. men's national team came out to the knockout round despite terrible coaching.
Like they have a student discount maybe to go to football games? Like they got it, right?
No.
To take that next step, I think it's still undisputed that you have to go to Europe.
He's going to be on the ground for the majority of the time. No,
I
look back at highlights.
That's the Christian Pulisic treatment, though.
Same.
We're going to have to stop this. We're going to start arguing on this podcast, aren't we?
Welcome back to the Real Futbol Show. I am Geno Gonnello, joined this week, as you can see, Lizzie. It's not Lizzie this week.
Nope.
Pretty, distinct difference, I would say. But we are joined by our producer, Edwin, who is going to join us and help us break down some of the biggest action of the past week. But before we get into that, let's bring in Edwin. Edwin, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thank you guys for having me. I feel a little different being on this side of the camera. Usually I'm behind the scenes watching you guys go at it and pulling my hair because of what I tend to disagree more with Lizzie. I'll be honest. Usually when you guys are doing the show, I'm usually like, and you've mentioned it where I'm like, just like, what are you doing? What are you saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm excited. Lizzie unfortunately can't be here this week. She's got a lot of commitments. She is super busy. So you get me. Hey, not too bad.
Yes, we get you. A perfect replacement. And at last minute at that, Lizzie was supposed to join us, but Edwin was tapped in from the bullpen at the last second. So we bring him in, and we start off with MLS. And we'll start off with one of the topics, really, that you and Lizzie tend to disagree with.
Yeah, 100%.
To disagree on. But Cincinnati beat Inter Miami 1-0 this past weekend. One of the bigger matches, I think, on the calendar at the beginning of the season, when you're marking down the big matches early in the season, Cincy, Inter Miami is definitely one that stood out. But as of late, Miami has been struggling, and this is now their fourth loss in a row. From what I understand, Edwin, you are changing your tune.
I am, and this would have been a good time for Lizzie to have been here because I might be jumping on the Lizzie bandwagon now. I don't think she's right completely. I still think I'm probably, as pessimistic as I am right now, I'm probably more optimistic than she is still at this point. But yeah, you said it. This was a game you'd circle on the calendar. Cincinnati playing well to start the season, although they haven't had that big breakthrough game yet. That big, like 3-0, 4-0, the big drubbing of a team. But they keep winning. They keep getting points. They keep doing what they're supposed to. But Inter Miami started off hot with the 2 wins, 4 straight losses. Looked bad in a couple of them. But this week, you travel to Cincinnati. I thought they needed to have that, that moment where Lizzie said, that he has to prove that he's tactically, capable of leading this team. And man, it's the injuries pile up. There's so many excuses that you can make. There's so many things going wrong with the team. But at the end of the day, it's another tough loss. 1-0. That's it. And it was if you happen to watch the game, you got to remember there was a penalty that was called against Cincinnati, and it was going to give Inter Miami, a chance here at the spot for a 1-0 lead. It was overturned by VAR, then determined that it was just a foul outside of the box. But when you look at it, VAR was kind of, but that stoppage took so long. They added 9 minutes of extra time, and that's where the goal came from. On a cross from a corner, Mosquera. I don't know, the man marking that Miami did there at that moment was just leaves you scratching your head. You had your 2 smallest guys on their big giant defender, and he just rose above everybody for the goal. So yeah, I'm officially stating it right now. I'm off the bandwagon. I'm just gonna be pessimistic and just tell you that Inter Miami's not gonna accomplish anything, and we gotta get rid of Phil Neville. That's it. Official.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I think it's hard, this one, right? Because when you watch the press conferences after this match, both teams, both coaches came out and said kind of the opposite of what you would expect them to say after the result. Inter Miami and Phil Neville came out and said that they dominated the game. They were happy with the performance. It's just some little things that need to be fixed, and they'll get back on track. And FC Cincinnati and Pat Noonan came out and were like, there's no way we should have won this game. It was, we got lucky. We grinded out a 1-0 win. We did not look good. We were not prepared. And they came out with a 1-0 win. So the coach is obviously sharing a different perspective than the result.
Yeah.
I do think from a Cincinnati perspective, there's more there than they're showing and have shown it this season so far, which is probably a good thing for them if they can figure it out, because if they're winning games 1-0, I mean, the big issue last season was giving up goals.
Yeah.
And they've been very good at not doing that this season. They've only given up 4, I think, through the first 6 matches. So from their perspective, they're not giving up goals, and now it's just about finding that cohesiveness and whatnot moving forward and going forward with the offense, which will come at some point. It'll come at some point with the players that that they have on the Inter Miami side. And there were a couple of situations in this game. Phil Neville felt that Lucho Costa should have had 2 yellows and been sent off for kicking the ball away.
Yeah.
But Inter Miami once again failed that, or lacked that final third presence and that attack, that finishing presence to get the ball in the back of the net. And for a team that spent a lot of money on the attack and has spent a lot of money on the attack, and obviously loses Gonzalo Higuain, but seems to have, you would think would have replaced them or replaced him with the players that they've brought in. They're not doing enough. And I guess the question to you, Edwin, is it just the loss of Gregory, or is it more than that when it comes to Inter Miami?
Oh, it's a lot more than that. Gregory's loss, he was that pivot guy on back. He, box to box, great guy, great player, but this team has too much talent. There's an unfair expectation because it is Miami and it is the city of stars, and we love to win, and Beckham and all this stuff that they've done. Of course, there's going to be an unfair level of expectation, but at the end of the day, you win out. You got Joseph Martinez. You let Pozuelo go. Yeah, you thought you could fill that spot, that void there. I really didn't like that move. I thought if we could have kept Pozuelo and, with the additions that we had, I thought it would be a much stronger lineup for MLS. It would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
But if you can't get Leo Campana into the game, we've played 6 games this season. He's got a total of 0 minutes. We got nothing. Like you need to. It sounds cliche, but the number one ability in sports is availability. And when your top goal scorer, the guy who you said can score in the final third, can make those game-changing plays, can do those things, is not available, you're never gonna make anything happen. And Joseph Martinez hasn't found his form at all. His shots don't look well. He looks like he's going with the motions and he's trying, but the final product that you're seeing out there is not good. Like your best guy, your best chance this week was Franco Negri out of I think he's left back this last game, kicking it and hitting the post from distance, but he's taking your shots, and not the guys up front, not the guys that, on your wings. That's a problem, and they don't have anybody who can create, or they don't have anybody in the midfield that can distribute to those guys in front to create. And it's tough to watch right now. It really is. Now with Cincinnati, you mentioned that, they're playing well and everything, but they've also had their last 3 wins. Actually, all wins this season. All 4 of their wins have been a 1-goal win. I don't know if you saw that. Then they got a couple of draws in there. So again, need them to pull away, show that this is their season to really take that next step. But with Inter Miami, look, Phil Neville, nice guy. I wanted him out last season. I was all like, hey, get rid of him. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. It's just we've gone long enough. I mean, but he did something last season that I don't think Lizzie gives him any credit for, but I am running out of reasons to give him credit for this. Like, this leash has been extended so long, but the fact that he was able to turn around Gonzalo Higuain and make him the player that he was last season, considering that guy may have had the worst body language I've ever seen from a player in any sport, and he just did not want to play there. There was so many things wrong with Gonzalo Higuain, yet he made him great. He made him finish strong his career, which at one point early in the season looked impossible. And I get it. He's a great people motivator. If you talk to the guys in the locker room, they'll tell you that they love playing for him. But man, just tactically, it's not working out. It's not working out. There's no creativity. There's no flow, and there's only so much you can get off on. Rah, let's do it. Let's rally around the troops. But you need some guy to come in there and make the tough decisions and really implement something. I haven't seen it from him, and every week it's just getting less and less. And I don't got any more excuses, man. 4 weeks, 4 losses. I don't know, Lizzie. You win. You beat me. She put her bad juju on everything for me, and now I got nothing.
Yeah, no, I think I think you're right with. I think it is more. I mean, when it comes to Josef Martinez, I think a big issue with him. I mean, I think we're starting to see why Atlanta didn't want him. Around or want him on the team anymore. I mean, he was not contributing much last year.
Yeah.
He hasn't really shown any of the form that we've seen from him in previous years this season.
Yeah.
So, maybe that tank has run out, and that's okay. I mean, the guy has given, has had a phenomenal career in the MLS.
100%.
But if he's the guy that's leading your line, it's okay to expect the tank to run out. And that's why you need guys like Leo Campana. And then I think the other thing that you're hit the nail on the head on is the loss of Pozuelo, because Pozuelo came in after, with 12 games remaining, I believe. And at that point, I think he added something else to this Inter Miami team attacking wise, and added some creativity. And I think he did a lot to create for Higuain and the rest of the team. And just looking at his stats from last season, since he got to Miami, he had 6 assists and 2 goals in 12 games. I mean, that's 8 goal contributions in 12 games. That's a lot.
Yeah, I think the team leader was only 7 assists on the whole season. And this guy did.
So you're looking at it and you're like, they're missing that piece to kind of be creative and create. And obviously, those are just the hard stats. I'm sure there's many key passes that he made to open up the team, and was just a key part of that Miami team. So that's a massive loss for a team. And I think you're right when you say, it maybe shouldn't have let him go. And I think that is also showing a little bit. But this Miami team has a lot to figure out, and they got to figure it out quick. And if you ask Phil Neville, he seems like they have it figured out. In the press conference the other day, one of the reporters asked him if he was wobbling or said his team was wobbling. Didn't even ask. And he came right back and said, "We're not wobbling." And I feel like that's a little bit.
Can we talk about wobbling though? What's wobbling? I've never been asked if I'm wobbling. Like, is it a?
I think it's more like
sports.
Well, I think it's more like boxing, right?
Yeah,
like boxing,
okay.
Like you get hit and you're wobbling and you're like, oh man, I don't know if I got much left in me, or if I'm in a bad state. Like, I guess that's probably what it means.
All right, so I was trying to get the reference. I mean, I've never heard that. I've been to a bunch of press conferences before, and I've just never heard. You guys look like you're wobbling in that setting in soccer.
I think it's a British thing. I think it's a British thing.
We gotta ask her.
I think I've heard that.
But yeah, you're right though. He's not. I gotta disagree with him.
Definitely wobbling.
Definitely. You're getting pulled over. Like, this is a bad DUI right now, man. Like, you can't walk the straight line at all. You're just all over the place. I think they wanted to. Well, I know that they wanted to. They were really counting on guys like Bryce Duke to step up and fill those voids, But with the subtraction of Gregory, by injury, you're forcing these guys to kind of overcompensate in a few things. Like, there was a thing that Neville said, I think it was after last week. He was really cheering on the performances. One of the reporters asked him how he felt about the performances of some of the young guys after the tough loss. Not this week, the week before. And he was quick to praise some of these younger guys. And I thought that was, and including his son, who was on the team, who had played a decent game, saying that they're going to get minutes if they earn it. And I think that's great if you're in theory, but again, it goes back to what I said, the expectations in Miami, and with all the attention, it's unfair. And this isn't a team that's here to we're going to groom some of these really young, raw guys into something better later on. That's
Mhm.
not what we need. That's not what we expect down here as fans, and what the league expects either. You need more from the guys that have been there before, and I think it kind of felt a little like a cop out, like they was trying to find some praise there instead of criticizing the lackluster performance, because that's what it's been, and it goes from top to bottom, man. Drake Callender was player of the match week like the first 2 weeks of the season, and then all of a sudden he's giving up point blank goals to defenders. Like he
Yeah.
can't even make a basic save. So and all throughout in all the phases of the game, it's been tough. It's been tough, but they got Dallas at home, so maybe some sun dances. It might be a hot, humid night this weekend, so
See,
maybe
the
that's what we
Sundances
need.
don't work against Dallas. They know the heat. The
Yeah, that's
Sundances only
true.
work against the teams up north.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know what he's gonna do. I mean, what are we gonna summon out here?
He's got to
Maybe,
figure something out.
yeah. I mean, that's got to be the all-time line so far this season, right?
The
Sundance.
Sundances,
Yeah.
or Pat Noonan this weekend saying, "If you watch this, I apologize."
I like it when they're aware. I like it when they're
Yeah.
aware. That's always a plus. But I'll be honest. I am not looking forward to the game this weekend. Unless the only thing that could change is Leo Campana. I really think he has, like, the guy looks like $1 million. Okay, I don't know. He feels like he's 6'5" or something, and he's got the smooth looks and everything. He looks good, but I don't know. And he played well last season, but he looks like the part. If he shows up this week, he's the kind of guy that we could put up forward that can create and hopefully is hungry to score some goals and put the team on his back. But I don't know. I've seen some pictures of him at training during the week, and again, this before the season, we were getting ready to start the season and have everybody healthy, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, he's got a calf injury or something,
Yeah.
and it hasn't been elaborated on, like, oh, okay, he's gonna be out 6 weeks. Like, this is too much. Inter Miami needs to figure it out, but I'm not optimistic. Home against Dallas, unfortunately, I don't see. I mean, maybe
I think they get a point. I don't know. I think
You
they get a
think?
point
Enough
because Dallas
Sundances?
has been just as ineffective in front of net, I think, as
Okay.
Inter Miami has. So I can see this being like 1-1.
Yeah.
So
What about Cincinnati though? Like, how do we feel about them and what they've done and where they're at right now? Because I had a lot of high hopes for Cincy. Got them up on the
Yeah.
power rankings from week 1.
I
mean-
think with Cincinnati, it's more a situation of like they've been doing a lot of things really well. They haven't lost a game all season,
Yeah.
and they haven't been their best. So if you could do that and not score a goal, not have your top players score goals, and you're playing good defensively, which was the main area that I think everybody was like, okay, Cincinnati's got it in attack, but can they defend?
Yeah.
And they have been defending, and now it's just about figuring it out offensively. I mean, I think if you look at the East, I think them and Atlanta are probably the two clear favorites in the East right now after 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Whether it'll stay that way, I don't know. But Cincinnati, I think, is exactly where they expected to be, maybe with a little bit more goals they were hoping. But I think that they're exactly where they expected to be, and I think that they're, easily in the top 2 of the East after 6 weeks.
And you said something there. You said they're undefeated and haven't played their best yet. Like, that's, God, that must feel good as a fan, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're undefeated. We're doing well. We haven't even hit our stride yet or played a full complete game yet. And yet I'm here, watching Inter Miami just go through the motions, and I'm praying for sun dances, man. I'm praying for sun dances out here. Like, how is that going to help me out? This is horrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's in Miami. It's not sunshines and rainbows for sure in Miami.
No.
Meanwhile, in Cincinnati, I think I think things are going about as well as they expected. I mean, let's just looking at their schedule. They've played some pretty difficult teams in the East so far, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've played Nashville. They've played Orlando City, I believe. They've played Inter Miami, who was expected to be one of the better teams. Obviously, hasn't turned out to be. They've beaten Houston Dynamo. The draw against Chicago was a bad draw. That was a really bad draw.
Yeah. That's where they finally, put some goals up, but then they couldn't stop, an anemic attack of Chicago. But isn't that like so MLS though?
Yeah.
Isn't that like the most MLS thing right there? Yeah, this team is good. They couldn't do it. All of a sudden, they give up 3 to
Yeah.
like a really bad team.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like that game, though, what we talk about so often with Inter Miami, can they come back from down? Like, they were down 3-1 in that game, and they found 2 goals and managed to tie it 3-3 on the road. So that's obviously, it's not as bad as a result as it could have been. It's not a great result, but they beat Seattle Sounders while getting a red card, which is another talented team. They got a red card in the 83rd minute, but still, I think they've played terrific defensively. It's about finding the goals in front of net, and Pat Noonan even said this weekend that he doesn't expect Brandon Vasquez to be around for long. So because there's already interest around it. We've reported on it. 90 Min's reported on it, and the fact that there's interest from the Premier League and I believe the Bundesliga. So he's not going to be around for long. And Brenner was already getting sniffed around. So, these players are players that may not be there. So their high-powered attack, they got to figure it out soon so they can get enough points on the board just in case one of them does ship off to a different league, because then would become the question, like where the goal's coming from. So we'll see. But I think since he is in a good spot right now, Miami can't say the same.
I'll take a 3-3, Chicago-like performance for Miami this week.
Yeah, absolutely. In a heartbeat. Let's move on though. We got some quick things we got to get over. We spent a lot of time on Cincy and Inter Miami, but quickly let's talk about Seattle and LA Galaxy. Another game for the LA Galaxy that they lose. Seattle wins. Seattle didn't have, I think they had 38% of the possession, only had 9 shots, 3 on goal, while LA Galaxy had 28 shots, 8 on goal. Another situation that we've seen from LA Galaxy where can't find the back of the net. The scoring power isn't there without Chicharito. They can't keep the other team out of the net. I mean, did we learn anything from this Seattle LA Galaxy game? Was there anything to be learned from this? Or is this just kind of one team struggling, one team that's kind of getting the benefit of the doubt in every situation possible?
I think for me, I have this strong disdain, for Jordan Morris that I just can't put away. And he just keeps doing it, and it pisses me off, man. I'm sorry. I don't like seeing him do well, so it's hard for me to say some nice things about Seattle right now.
I'll do that. I'll do that. You don't have to.
All right. So the Galaxy, and head scratching performance. I had a lot of expectations from Ricky Puig this season. I thought he could have been, right now, I'm not even going to mention it, but I thought he could have been one of the best signings ever for MLS. Last season when it happened, I thought he provided a spark for them. I thought they played much, much better after he got there. And this is a guy who's coming from the pedigree that he has in Barcelona. He's only, 25, 26 years old. He's super young.
I'm not even sure. I don't even think he's that old.
I might be overshooting the age.
He's like 23.
Maybe. But he's a guy who's like young, in potentially still finding his prime. This is not the kind of guy that MLS usually draws in. These are the kind of guys that MLS usually, ends up selling. But I had a lot of expectations, and I haven't heard a peep from him all season.
He had 1 pass, 1 assist I think he has this season.
Yeah, that's not going to cut it, man. That's not going to cut it. LA Galaxy, they're also in that same microscope and same unfair expectations like Miami. These are these big teams that just you can't have. I know we still have Cincinnati and Inter Miami up there on the screen, but
oh yeah.
But anyway,
my producer duties are falling today.
Yeah, man. I know. Usually I'd be handling it, but but when it comes to the Galaxy, this isn't. Something's going to change, man. Something's going to change. The summer transfer window is going to bring in somebody big if they don't, because they're not going to settle for another season like last season. Last season, I think they underperformed. They tried to get a little better. They tried to make some changes, but it wasn't happening. And they don't like, come on, man. They don't want to see big little brother LAFC win another chip. They don't want to. Man, if you're a Galaxy fan, you got to be steaming mad, man. You can't be having your new little brother come into the league and have as much success as they've had, and it's hard times for the Galaxy. And I don't think the Chicharito addition when he comes back or when he starts playing, even if he starts playing well, I think this team has bigger problems. I'm not one to sit here and dissect what those problems are. I can't really give you that kind of information, but from what I've seen, it doesn't feel right for the caliber and the prestige of a team like the Galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. There's a couple things on the Galaxy before I get into Seattle. Joveljic is not taking his shot in the, you and me, I think both agreed that we thought he was going to be a player to watch
so
out
good
for, a
last
guy.
season.
He was
Good.
so good off the bench.
Yeah.
He can't score. He just hasn't been able to find the back of the net. I think he's done so once this season. A lot of problems are coming from the defense and from the wings, which was always an issue. They brought in Tyler Boyd right before the season because they did not have a lot of wing talent, a talent on the wings, and hasn't really panned out yet for them in that aspect. Joveljic hasn't panned out. There's a lot of turnover and there's just a lot of problems with the defense.
Yeah.
And it's just, this was a situation. Again, the fans have been very vocal about the fact that they were not happy that there were no improvements made to the team last season, and they still are. I believe there was boos this weekend. So, they're not in a good spot. And listen, it's hard for these guys to go out there because there's a lot of pressure on them right now, because it's never easy to go out when your fans are expecting so much and expect, and already, are already upset with the team and the franchise and are already, they're like, well, if one thing goes wrong, then we're going to be really upset on the field. It's like, it's never easy to go in that situation. That's a toxic environment to have to go into and have to play in. So that's not easy for them, but they're going to need to figure something out. They're going to need some help. And I'm not sure they have the ability to bring in another out of league, like, solid player, because I don't think they have a DP spot open. Yeah. So, I mean, I'd have to look into that more.
They swung and missed with Costa there, and yeah, I don't know who they're gonna get.
Yeah. I mean, they have Puig and Chicharito, I think, are both DPs, and then I think they have one other
Costa.
person.
I think it's Costa.
Yeah, I think it might be right. So yeah, so that's three players that are already under the DP role. So they have no they can't bring in any DPs unless they get rid of DP, which they're not going to do. So that's like they're in a tight spot right now where they just don't have the ability, I think, to do what they need to do with the transfer window. So there's a lot of issues going on with the Galaxy. On the Seattle side, I think the reason we're seeing a lot of good out of Jordan Morris is because of Leo Chu. Yes. Because Leo Chu basically has every single assist Jordan Morris on every Jordan Morris goal.
It's all Leo Chu. That's it. It's just nothing but a poacher out there in front that's just snatching up all these great passes. I mean, anybody out there could have scored those goals.
Again, this is, you have to be in the right spot. Let's, give. I know you don't want to give Jordan Morris credit, but we got to give Jordan Morris credit where it's due. You got to be in the right spot. And I think he did have an assist in this match too. I think he assisted Leo Chu's goal.
Okay.
But I'm not entirely sure.
It was probably like an early pass and Leo Chu did all the work. I'm pretty sure it was something like that. He took it in himself.
Probably. But yeah, I mean, this Seattle team has looked good, much better than they did last season. They did look much better than they did last season, and I think the Leo Chu Jordan Morris connection has been really good, which has somehow pushed Raul Ruidiaz to the bench.
Yeah.
A legend in Raul Ruidiaz to the bench, and I mean, they've been very good. That's it. There's really nothing to say. They've been really good and have faced adversity and have only lost one match all season, and that was to the team we were just talking about, FC Cincinnati.
Yep.
They will take on St. Louis City this weekend in a matchup of the top two teams in the Western Conference, which again will be another test for them. But I mean, beat LA Galaxy 2-1, beat Kansas City 4-1, tied LAFC 0-0, and did not really give them much of a shot to score any goals. They beat Real Salt Lake, they beat Colorado. So a little bit of a mixed bag in terms of results, in terms of who you're playing, right? So
Yeah.
there's still a lot of teams left on schedule for them that are going to give them, some troubles. So we'll see how that plays out. But they've done what they can with the schedule that's been put in front of them. And that's a good sign for Sounders fans after last season. So that, yeah.
Hey, if it wasn't for St. Louis having, the incredible start to the season, it'd be all about Seattle's start. Because if you, I'm looking back here at our first power rankings, the preseason ones right before week 1, we didn't even have them in our top 10. They've just exploded on there. Has it been taking advantage of, good opportunities? Yeah, but there's also skill to that too. You have to play well. You have to be led by a good leader and have a good structure from top to bottom to get to that point. And they're playing fantastic. I'm telling you, if it wasn't for St. Louis, as much as we talk about St. Louis on this show, we'd be talking so much more about, Seattle, because what they've done to start the season has been an incredible run. And we're going to see, because now we get these two big surprise storylines clashing this weekend. So curious to see who's going to come out on top in that one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Morris, 8 goals on the season so far. Leo Chu, 4 assists, 1 goal. So those two players have been just dominant for them.
Yeah, and Joe Klaus with 5 goals on the season.
Joe Klaus,
well.
so on the St. Louis side, Joe Klaus, Lowen, they've been great. Berkey's had a solid introduction to the league. So it's going to be a really, really good matchup this coming weekend. Let's touch on a couple other things before we move on to some Champions League, some CONCACAF Champions League talk.
Yeah.
Just want to give some quick shout outs and get your quick thoughts on these. Columbus, 4 more goals this past weekend, this time on RSL, Real Salt Lake. They've now scored 10 goals in 2 games.
Oof.
It seems Nancy Ball has arrived in Columbus, and that is a very your thoughts.
Oof, with a lot of O's. O with an F, capital. Oof. That's, if you're a Columbus fan right now, enjoy it. Sit back, enjoy it. It's a good time to be a Columbus fan. Not every it doesn't come along very often where you get 10 goals in 2 games, and the way in which they're playing, complete, everybody's scoring. Last week it was your youngsters, you have 4 guys scoring their first goal ever, and this week you get your contributions from your leaders. Zelarayan, he's good, man. He's so good. I like him.
And they're still missing Cucho. Neither of these games featured Cucho Hernandez. So normally when you score 10 goals in 2 games and you're not featuring one of your best players, that's a good sign.
Yep.
One of their young starlets, Aiden Morris, seems to be off to a great start this season.
Yeah.
Wilfred Nancy, in my opinion, is one of the top, if not the top coach in MLS. I love him. I think what he did with Montreal last season was phenomenal. And what he's doing with this Columbus team, you can see the differences already, and I think he's off to a great start. So really good stuff from him. Moving over to my Vancouver Whitecaps.
Hold on. We got to give you the full screen treatment here, bro. Let's have our Vancouver Whitecaps minute, baby. Let's do it. Give it. Floor is yours. There you go. Take off that Sounders Galaxy stuff.
Yes, we're going to take off the Sounders Galaxy
stuff.
We're just only Vancouver. Here we go. They finally break out of the solo goal, only 1 goal a game. They'd scored 1 goal a game in every single game for the entirety of this season up to this point. They beat Montreal 5-0. Obviously, a red card involved with that. Simon Betcher gets on the score sheet twice in this one in a span of 16 minutes. That's his 4th goal in his career, and he now becomes the fastest to 4 goals in an MLS career. Just beating out Cucho Hernandez, who did it in 89 minutes. Betcher did it in 87 minutes across 3 games. Really just phenomenal stuff. I mean, Vancouver, they finally broke out. Now it's a time of seeing whether they can carry on this. It seems like Betcher might be the answer to their striker problems. They've tried Brian White. They've tried Cordova. They've now tried Betcher up top with Brian White. It seems like maybe that 2-striker option there is the one to go with, but these Vancouver Whitecaps, I think they're onto something.
I love it, man. Dude, nowhere else are you gonna get that kind of
Vancouver Whitecaps love breakdown.
No. Oh man,
I actually genuinely, I think I've watched so much of them that I actually genuinely have a love for them.
That's how it happens, man. You get these weird moments where you're just stuck watching some random team, and then you're like, hey, bro. I can get down with these guys. You know, you just start
They have a
following
lot
them,
of
keep
they
it up.
just have a lot of fun players on their team. Like they don't get it like they're out there in the West doing their own thing and nobody really pays attention to them, and they got a lot of fun talent over there. So that's the Vancouver Whitecap minute, I guess you could call it.
Yeah,
We move on to Atlanta and New York Red Bulls. Atlanta beats New York Red Bull by a score of 1-0. There was 30 fouls in this game, 10 yellow cards in this match.
wow.
And this is the first time ever Atlanta has beaten New York Red Bulls in the regular season,
Wow.
which I found pretty shocking.
That is shocking. Atlanta's good. I mean, there's my expert analysis. They're really good.
Very good.
Very good. No, they're good. Atlanta has the potential to really make a deep run this season because you have to. Like if you're management and you're the top brass in Atlanta, you're looking at Thiago Almada and you're thinking, man, we might not have him for very long. We got to go all in right now and do whatever we can. And I think they did a great job bringing in Gigi to play up. I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce his name yet. I'm still not that
Giacomakis, I think it is, or Giacomakis, I think is what it is.
All right, props to you. I'm not that comfortable in attempting that.
Attempting Greek.
Yeah. My Greek is not too good, but I think he's the kind of guy that you need up there to complement Thiago. Arauz on the other side, the young kid Wiley. They have the pieces there.
They
add
do.
a couple more little small pieces. You have a coach there who they like, who was a prior player. You have a lot of you have all the right ingredients. Now just stir it up, make it into the right recipe, and you got something there. Atlanta can make a deep run, and they have to. You've mentioned that you said it on a prior episode that Thiago Almada won't even finish the season.
I don't think he gets added. But I think the only thing that could possibly keep him from finishing the season would be the price tag that they're going to put on him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's gone by the end. I think he's gone by the end.
I think so.
This is an Atlanta season that's an Atlanta team who's still missing Gutman, who was very good for them last year.
Yep.
And who's got a groin injury. So that is really good signs. I mean, again, we talked about how they moved on from Josep Martinez. They bring in Giacomakis, I think is how you pronounce it. We're going to try it. He scores 2 goals in his last 2 games. He scores 2 goals in his last 2 games. They have a good problem on the left, figuring out whether they're going to want to play Wiley or Etienne on that left-hand side.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've been really good. And I mean, I think it's showing. I think Ibarra has kind of found a role for himself in that midfield and has been talented. So, really good stuff from Atlanta. And then finally, the last thing we're going to talk about MLS specifically wise, San Jose, Lizzie's team, San Jose Earthquakes.
Yep.
They win for the 3rd time this season in a game that featured all goals from the penalty spot. Very rare that we get 3 goals and all of them from the penalty spot. San Jose won 2-1. Just want to give them a quick shout out because they have been pretty solid. And they're now, I believe, in 5th place.
5th place in the West.
Yeah, 5th place in the West. So good stuff all around. That's our MLS. We're going to dive into now, skip over to the CONCACAF Champions League, which begins tonight, or which continues tonight, I should say. There's going to be, this is the quarterfinals, I believe, off the top of my head. I'm just double checking to make sure.
Yes. No. Quarterfinals. This is leg 1 or no.
Leg 2. Leg 1. No, leg 1.
Oh, sorry. Leg 2 is scheduled for April 12th. So next week we'll have so we got some action for the next couple of weeks here. We got something to look forward to,
Yeah, so we got midday games starting today, midweek games starting today. Philly takes on Atlas tomorrow, and then later on, Lyon takes on Violet, the upset story.
What a good
Violet,
story.
From Haiti.
Yeah.
They'll
they
take
have a place to play in.
They don't. They just don't.
Incredible story.
It's crazy stuff going on over there. So definitely keep your eye on that one. And then tomorrow you get LAFC versus my Vancouver Whitecaps.
Ew.
And then Tigres versus CD Motagua, I think it is.
Motagua. Yeah, that's I believe that's the Honduran team.
Yeah, I believe you're right. Yeah. I believe you're right. So that is what to watch out for this week. We will talk a little bit about, we probably won't go too much in LAFC Vancouver. We will talk a little bit about Philly and Atlas. And I want to start off, this is a Philly team that has struggled so far this season. A team that did not lose any players. They gained players. They didn't lose any big pieces. And they just have not looked the same Philly team that they looked like last season. They now go into a matchup with Atlas, who is a talented Liga MX side. It's not going to be an easy match. Doesn't really matter for me the result. Let me ask you right now before we go into this match. Is it time to panic about Philadelphia Union?
Oh, man. I need a sound effect. Panic! This is crazy time right now if you're Philadelphia. You got to panic. You're hitting all the levers, doing everything you can, sound the alarm, do all that stuff. Tonight's game could be that catalyst that gets everything, rectified and the team starts playing well and moving forward. Or it could just, unfortunately, Atlas is a good squad and you're deep into this tournament. I don't know how seriously. See, this is the problem. I don't know how serious they're taking this tournament right now. Because where's the focus? Are you focused on this, or are you focused on, the sinking ship that is the MLS season right now?
You never know. I mean, we heard Lizzie said this a couple times ago about how these teams that get in CONCACAF Champions League, Seattle was so focused on winning the CONCACAF Champions League and the emotions of that the MLS season was just not good for them. And this Philadelphia team has looked better than I think that Seattle team looked last year during their CONCACAF Champions League run. But they have not won in 3 matches now. They have lost they tied Sporting Kansas City, a bad Sporting Kansas City team, a team who has not been very good this season. They lost 2-1 to an Orlando City side who can't find the back of the net. And they lost 3-2 to a really bad Montreal side in the last 3 matches.
And Miami.
And then prior to that, they lost to Miami. Exactly.
Yep.
So the only teams they've beaten so far are Columbus 4-1 and Chicago 1-0. And that Columbus match, they had 2 penalty kicks.
Yeah,
so,
that's true. And that was week 1, opening match week 1. It's not the same.
It's not. And I think I would agree. We had this conversation a couple weeks back, but I think now it's time to panic for the Union. We've seen a few matches now in a row where they just have not looked themselves, have not looked good. Granted, the Montreal match had a red card in it, but still, they defensively, offensively, it's not been all there. It hasn't been able to click yet this season. And it's I think it's time to worry a little bit. They're sitting currently at 8th in the table right now, which based on the new rules is a playoff spot.
Yep. Fair enough.
But they're only have 7 points on the season. They're 7 points back at Cincinnati, who is top of the table. They've got a little bit of trouble, I think. A little bit of trouble. But like you said, I think that this match tonight could make a difference and could mean them, kind of figuring it out offensively. But I don't know. We saw them play against the team that they played before in the CONCACAF Champions League. They beat them 4-0 at home.
Yeah.
And they couldn't replicate that on the pitch in the MLS. That's the last one they've had. They haven't won since then. So the question becomes, does Jim Curtin go out with his regular squad this week? Does he, how does he manage this? I think he shows a little bit more respect to Atlas than he did the team that they played previous to this. But I think this is a big match for Philly to figure out where they kind of stand right now.
I hope so. I hope they're listening. And I hope Coach really does bring out his best lineup here. You need to do something right now. You need to change something, motivate this team. Get some, like another L or another bad performance is just really going to stunt this team even more. It's going to be a bigger hindrance moving forward. But there's this the history tells us that MLS teams don't take this tournament serious. It wasn't until Seattle, like you said, last season. And you haven't even started U.S. Open Cup yet. We're in the early stages, of that right now. You got that coming up. If you lay an egg on this and you lose out on this, and then you continue to struggle in MLS, then you have the Cup. There's always going to be something there. So start now by trying to get ahead of it. Start preparing for it. If you got to rest a couple of guys and balance your schedule out, but these cups mean something. They mean a lot, you know?
Yeah, and that's like a thing. Like I feel like, we look at like this is our Champions League. This is our UEFA Champions
Yeah.
League. This should mean a lot to teams. It should mean just as much as the UEFA Champions League. We can't have the UEFA Champions League, so we should go out there and want to compete for these things. And I feel like what has kind of happened with MLS and US soccer is that we kind of don't cherish the US Open Cups or the Leagues Cups or the CONCACAF Champions League as much as Europe cherishes the FA Cup or the League Cup or the CONCACAF Champions League. I mean, listen, the League Cup maybe not as much, but I think when it comes to the US Open Cup and the CONCACAF Champions League, like these are things that like there's opportunities for trophies. Like why not go and get them and add to your trophy case?
100%.
Like Liga MX teams are taking it just as seriously. I mean, I know, listen, the first round is going to be against maybe some teams that aren't that good, but from that point on, you're going to face good teams. So, you're going to face other Liga MX teams. So, take the opportunity, go out there and try and win and try and, prove MLS the dominant league like Premier League and La Liga and Liga 1 and Serie A all do every single year. And that's, I think that's I think that needs to be more of the mindset.
I think there's an unfortunate level of entitlement in MLS.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just they look, man, before we had Inter Miami down here, we had a USL at the time, an NASL team down here. Got a couple. And as you know, there's no pyramid in US soccer. There's no pro rel, but there are a lot of lower division leagues. And at the time, I've been there, and it means a lot to those teams. I've followed those teams. I followed one team in particular locally down here, Miami FC, who went on a run all the way up to the semifinals of the U.S. Open Cup, I believe it was, and then ended up losing in heartbreaking fashion to another USL team, FC Cincinnati back then, who then ended up playing for the Cup. And it means a lot to those fan bases. It means a lot to those teams, but I've never found that same carryover since we've gotten an MLS team down here. When I've gone to these U.S. Open Cup games, what I see on TV with Philadelphia, with these other teams in our prior history in Champions League. And it's unfortunate. And I think it's because there is this entitlement. There's no penalty for anything in MLS, for not doing well. And everything is just like, oh, well, we deserve it. We're better than Liga MX. We're better than, USL. We're better than everything else. And I think it's a cultural thing. I think it needs to, you got to shake it up and you got to put some emphasis. And I think every year, maybe MLS is trying to do a little more and more and more, to change that perception and stuff, but it's going to take some time. And it doesn't start mattering to these teams until it gets to the very final. Like even last season, when it was Orlando versus Sacramento Republic, remember at the final for the US Open Cup, that was great. But anywhere you looked, as good as those fans are in Orlando, man, everybody in all of Sacramento was behind that team,
Yeah.
You don't see that in these cups when it comes to the MLS teams. They don't take it as serious.
Yeah. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it's like, maybe we need to do something like, have it at a neutral site and like what they do with Wembley and say, this is the, we'll do the semifinals and the finals at these neutral sites.
Yeah.
And maybe I think they got to do away with in the cups competitions, like the US Open Cup. I think you got to maybe do away with the 2 legs because the FA Cup doesn't have 2 legs. Some of most of the other cups around the world that people like look at don't do 2 legs that aren't the Champions League. But that's just a different story altogether. And I think it's the same with CONCACAF Champions League. But yeah, I mean, we should look at it the same way as England looks at the FA Cup or Italy looks at Coppa Italia or the Coppa del Rey or the DFK Pokal, I think is a DFB DFB Pokal,
something like that. Yeah, the German.
I'm not sure what the German. I know I can't think of it off the top of my head, but like they look at these things as just opportunities to win more trophies, and I feel like trophies aren't like. it's not as big of a deal in MLS.
100%.
It's like you win the championship, and if you don't, then it's whatever. And I think feel like
there's entitlement and there's no penalty. Like, I'm a big advocate for pro rel, and I will fight anyone every day of the week to tell you that we need this in MLS, and we won't get it. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately.
It's just the money wise, it's never going to happen.
It's 100% money wise, even though there are really good plans out there that would support it and could be beneficial to everybody. But you're 100% right. Trophies don't mean the same over here, unfortunately. And it's crazy because it's not like the U.S. Open Cup is a new thing. It's like over 100 years old. We've been doing this tournament here in the States well before MLS, well before anything. So you could, some people say, oh, well, like you mentioned the FA Cup. Oh, there's history over there, and they've been, cheering for that cup run for decades and generations. Well, we've had it here too. Just nobody cared. Nobody cared. So.
It's just I really love the cups. I think cup competitions are great. It's just another opportunity to win a trophy, and it's like. And again, that's the problem with not having pro rel and not being set up like the Premier League is set up or like European leagues are set up, is that in a European league, you can win one trophy in your domestic season, in the actual domestic season, in the actual Premier League. You can only win one trophy. You can only win one. But which makes it's like only one person a year wins the Premier League. So it makes winning the Champions League and winning the Leagues Cup and winning the FA Cup more important, because those other teams, like if you're an Everton, right? Like, or if you're a mid-table team, like say you're a mid-table team, like Fulham,
nice job.
Right?
You got your Everton reference in. All right, go ahead.
Say you're a mid-table because Everton's really bad right now. So let's say you're a Fulham, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not winning the Premier League. It's just like the reality of that is slim to none.
But make a deep run in
but you can make a deep run in the FA Cup. Teams like Wigan won the FA Cup and they got relegated. Like there's teams who like you can make those opportunities. Like whereas in the MLS right now, as long as you're one of the top 9 teams in each conference and top 18 teams in the league, you're just like, oh, I got a chance to win the trophy.
Man, look, I'll put it to you this way. I've been a fan of sports and for a long time, and I've had a lot of great sports memories. I've been fortunate. A lot of my teams have won. For instance, I'm rocking Chelsea gear today. I even have a Dodgers hat on. So I've had some winners. But one of the best sports memories I have was that 2017 U.S. Open Cup run. I was so close to that team. I followed that team from start to finish from the year before when they were created. So I really followed it. And how about this for a name that you recognize? Kwadwo Poku, who was a former NYCFC youngster out there that ended up coming to that Miami FC team. He scored a goal against Atlanta that people still talk about over here, like in the niche soccer circles here. He scored the game-winning goal against Atlanta to send us to the next round after having beat I think it was the Tampa Bay Rowdies and Orlando. They were beating everybody in their path leading up to that big semifinal game. And that stadium here locally, it's not a big stadium, but it rocked. It was great. It was a good crowd. It was fun, man. That's still one of the best memories when Poku scored that goal. So anytime that I look back at that, it's a shame that we don't celebrate that as much and people don't care. And I know you were talking about like mid-table teams, but even the high teams, like the upper level teams, like there's no like, oh, I want to win the double this year. Why can't we go after a treble?
I think the problem though is that those higher teams, like if you're a Man City or Liverpool or Chelsea or Manchester United in the Premier League, right?
Mm-hmm.
You look at the season, you're like, well, like there's no playoffs. I can't just get into the playoffs and then be good in the playoffs and win the trophy. Like
every game is a playoff.
The entire season.
The whole season is a playoff.
You have to be good the entire season. And so why I say mid-table teams is just that mid-table teams know that in the span of a 38-game season, there's probably a good chance outside of Leicester that you're not going to make a good enough run that you can win the league.
Yeah.
You go and you aim for Europe and you aim for European competitions, but you're not going to be able to compete for that trophy. So your opportunity, the opportunity for teams like, say, New England Revolution or say the Toronto FCs of the world right now, or, even if you look at even if you look at the West, like, a team like maybe San Jose or Houston, who are currently in playoff spots, they know that their only opportunity would be in like a Premier League setup. Their opportunities to win trophies are at this current moment are in the U.S. Open Cup or in the CONCACAF Champions League if they're in that Champions League or whatever.
Yep.
Or their goal is just to make the CONCACAF Champions League, and that's a big success. We don't look at it like that. we just look at it as like, oh, we played really well last season. We won the Supporters Shield. We won the Eastern Conference, won the MLS Cup, whatever. And now we're in this competition. And I think it's because of the way the setup is. And because
I'm just saying, even in like the upper level teams in MLS, I like to hear the word treble being thrown around. Like, you know what I mean? That's never happened in MLS. Oh, you won Supporters Shield, you won the MLS Cup, and you won one of the cup competitions. Like, you don't see that. But like, you rank or you rate these teams in Europe by the amount of doubles and trebles that they can win. And they're, you remembered fondly by doing those things. And
I know, like, no team has, I don't think any team in MLS history has probably ever done the domestic double, winning US Open Cup and
I don't know.
MLS Cup in the same season.
And definitely not a treble, because we haven't even had that many Champions League winners.
We've only won one Champions League, and that was Seattle last year, and they definitely didn't win.
Over 30 years, over 30 years of MLS, and we don't even have one, but we'll see.
That is our deep dive into CONCACAF Champions League.
Let's just
honestly, we did a lot of that. Let's just quickly bounce to just some quick other things. I want to talk about NWSL. They now have a new team. I want to mention it, that they have a new team coming in, a new franchise in the Bay Area. It's got 4 former U.S. women's national team stars as part of that, that team and that franchise. So that's going to be very exciting from an NWSL perspective. Obviously, the more teams we can get in women's soccer, I think the one thing that women's soccer always will have, always will have, it seems, over men's soccer, is that we are the best at that. And we now have an opportunity to build a league that will be the best at that and give the best players a chance to perform in the best league against the best players. So really good to see expansion across NWSL.
Fantastic. And you get not just across NWSL, but across, like, pop culture, mainstream media, things like that, with the addition of the NWSL to FIFA 23, which may seem like, something that gets overlooked, but no, hey, you can go in and you can play with these teams, you can play with these players, you can play in this league virtually now in video games if you're a gamer. That's something really cool. That's some great representation. You just had the women's college basketball championship game this past weekend. Incredible turnout, out getting more ratings than the men's Final Four and the men's championship game. So the women's sports, man, on the come up. This is great news for NWSL. Great news all around, man. Definitely, hopefully we continue to see it.
And if we can just keep getting the best players in the world, which are our players, to be able to play in a league, keep them home and get other play, that's huge for women's soccer moving forward. So. We'll talk about, you can talk about it over and over again. The U.S. has some of the best players in the world in women's soccer, and giving them a place to play at home where they can compete against the best of the best is absolutely massive. So really big for NWSL there. And then the last thing we need to talk about, we haven't touched on Liga MX.
I know.
And there was some craziness in Liga MX this weekend in the form of one game. Basically one game.
If you're going to watch one game, that was the game to watch.
If you're going to watch one game all season in Liga MX, it would be between Club America and Lyon. And let me just pull it up here so I have the stats in front of me because I need to let you know exactly what happened in this beautiful, beautiful game we call football. So Lyon actually is playing extremely well right now. They're in third place. This match actually helped them, or they were already above Club America. They helped them stay above Club America in this match. Having a terrific season. They haven't lost since week 4, it looks like. They've won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They've now got 11 matches undefeated. Wow. Haven't lost 11 matches, only 3 ties over that span. And they won up until this match against Club America. They had won 6 in a row. Okay. That's them coming in. Club America also on a hot streak coming in. We've talked about them a bunch. They've only lost 1 match since the second game of the season, or since I think the first game of the season.
One in their last 5 for sure.
Let me see. Yeah, 1 in their last 5. Yeah, just looking at the table. But they come in on a hot streak as well. They've won a bunch of games, or a couple games in a row against big rivals. And this was about as hectic and crazy as you could possibly ever imagine a game. Where do we start? Where do we even start? I mean, you could start with. Do we want to start with the coach ripping his shirt out and telling people that
you I just can't overlook that. That is just
I mean, passion. We talk about passion in other sports. There's no passion like that.
Dude, I've never seen that before, where a coach has his shirt ripped open, nipple out in the air there like that. Just, like, wow. I don't know. I can't even describe it. Like, if you haven't seen the images, you gotta look this up. It's ridiculous.
And most of the action here happened in the second half. I mean, the Lyon goal was scored in the second minute of stoppage time in the first half. But everything else basically happened in the second half. You had 2 goals. They were up 1-0 going in the half, Lyon. Then 2 goals in the 68th minute, or 63rd and 68th minute by Diego Valdez and Henry Martin were put Club America up 2-1. In the middle of all this, before a 4th minute of extra time, game time goal, in the middle of all this, a player gets a yellow card and a ref knees the player in the groin. Which, I mean, what are we doing here?
Man,
what are we doing?
It's crazy. I mean, Liga MX has had some crazy moments in the last couple of years, but this is. Do you think that would ever happen in an American league? Of any of our sports? Because like I try to think of like something crazy like that. I mean, obviously like bench clearing brawls come to mind. I remember wasn't it you're a Knicks fan, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm a Mavericks fan, but
Oh, okay, all right.
Doesn't really matter. They both, whatever.
Yeah, they're both pretty. Well, I remember like old Knicks coach hanging off the leg of a Miami Heat player during a brawl. I mean,
you got to remember. You could think of Don Zimmer and the Red Sox and all them, Pedro Martinez.
Yeah. That's
so. I mean, there's things happen, but I feel like with referees is next level. And this is the crazy part is this is another one of 2 occurrences I think in this past weekend that had not Liga MX, Premier League also had Mitrovic shove a referee.
Wow.
And he got an 8-game ban for that, an 8-match ban for that. And this referee actually got suspended for 12 matches for kneeing the player in the groin. And it was very discreet the way he did it. He kind of had his card in the air. He kind of walked forward and lifted his knee up. And, honestly, in regular time, maybe you don't catch it. But in slow motion, we got it. We got it. But yeah, I mean, this game was wild from all aspects. And except for, like, it's crazy because the 2 biggest talking points really are not even the game, and the game was exciting, man. The game was exciting, and it was a great match. And Lyon seems to have that a little bit of something in them this season, and it seems like they just have that pizzazz or just that little extra oomph that's pushing them forward and getting them, and that extra luck that's getting them to the point that they're at right now. And they're again sitting in 3rd, currently sitting in a spot where they will get a bye. They're sitting tied with Toluca on 25 points. Toluca above on goal differential. And obviously Monterrey is running away with the league, up 9 points now with 5 matches to play. So, or 4 matches to play.
What about your Cruz Azul?
My Cruz Azul are slowly climbing the table, and now they have a match with, I believe they play Lyon this weekend. They play Lyon this weekend. So if they can get just a single point this weekend, and Monterrey can beat Club America, then we are looking at a matchup that will see that'll see Cruz Azul have an opportunity to tie Club America on points with their matchup in their big rivalry match at the Azteca on not this coming weekend, but the weekend after.
We should do a watch party for that.
Yeah,
one.
It would be. It's going to be phenomenal. I mean, it's going to be great. We should definitely try and do something like that. Unfortunately,
I like how Lizzie's Club America and you with your Cruz Azul, and I'm just quietly there, like waving the Pachuca flag, like, "Hey, bro, we're
Pachuca,
here."
Yes,
nobody cares.
But
we're in between both of you, though. We're in between both of you. Though.
You are in between both of us, but thanks to Cruz Azul's terrific talent this past weekend, I believe we beat you 2-0 this weekend. I believe was the score.
Yeah.
So a big win for Cruz Azul, who's now on a 4-game unbeaten streak and has only lost once in their last 8 games. So my Cruz Azul, La Máquina, as they call.
There you go. Bravo, good.
They
Spanish.
are on a roll right now, and that's really good for them. Because they had such a terrible start to the season. The they're on a roll right now. And honestly, them catching Club America would make me very happy. It will be, if they do catch Club America, the first episode that Lizzie will be back on, because Lizzie will not be with us next week either. They will be
Spoiler
the
alert,
first
I'm here
episode.
again. Woo.
Yes, spoiler alert. Edwin is back. The first episode that we will be back together, Lizzie and I, will be after that Club America Cruz Azul match. So could be fireworks. Could be
Ooh.
fireworks.
I
mean, who knows? Maybe Club America lose and Cruz Azul hand Monterrey like their first loss of the entire season.
All right, slow it down here. All right, let's just that's the problem, man. You start looking too far ahead, you start thinking too many big things, and next thing you know, you're gonna be crying in the corner again because it's back to misery.
I mean, listen, it'll be excuse me, not Monterrey. They play Leon. They already played Monterrey and they lost 3-2.
No.
Club America play Monterrey. So who knows? Maybe Cruz Azul can knock off Monterrey. I'll take a draw. That's all I need. Just a nice draw, or knock off Leon. I keep getting them mixed up. Knock off Leon. I'll take a draw. But things have been significantly better in both Everton and Cruz Azul's world. So it's been
Not
better.
a bad time to be Geno right now.
Not a bad time to be Geno. I mean,
that.
both kind of still suck, but it's like it's okay, right?
Hey, one good cup run, right? One good
cup run.
That's all you need.
One good cup run, and listen. As I always say, Cruz Azul did win the biggest trophy in all of the land, the Copa por Mexico.
Oh,
so
absolutely. Gotta respect the trophy, man. Gotta respect that Copa.
Trophies are trophies.
Yeah, man. Fill it up,
All right. I think that about wraps it up. I think that about wraps up everything we need to talk about. I think we covered all the bases, right? You got anything else for us?
No. Thanks again for Lizzie missing this week and getting me in for a week earlier than I was prepared for. But Geno, you're a total professional. Thank you for helping me out.
Thank you for joining me.
And reminding everybody, 90min_USA on Instagram, 90min_ on 90min_US on Twitter. We're also on TikTok. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click that little like button, subscribe, and 90min.com/US for all the editorial stuff. You can read everything that this incredible staff is putting out, including Lizzie. So be sure, check it in. Anything else, hit us up. We're always here, and I look forward to next week, man. I'll be a little more prepared next week.
It was definitely great having you. Great conversation as always. We always seem to off air have great conversation, but it's great to have you on the podcast. And yes, please make sure you're good. Lizzie's putting in. Reason Lizzie can't be here today is because she's putting in a lot of hard work,
a lot of it,
and on top of all the other writers and all the other content we're pushing out. So please give that some love because she's been killing it. And we appreciate all the love we can get. So thank you guys for listening. We will be back next week. Until then, peace out.
Adios.